All right. So since you didn't have enough of me today, I thought I'll come back again. Well, I already made the announcement. So this is the second special episode of Almost Naked Conversation with me, Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO on Dreamaniac TV. And this episode is being directed by both Alicia Curry, who is the executive producer of Dreamaniac TV, as well as Sanjit, who is the creative producer. So this is going to be a fun episode, and this is Moy. Okay, so just in the last episode, we talked about, what did we talk about? Choices that we have, are they good and bad? Now we're standing still in a time which is so unusual, so unprecedented, and I know that word has been used a lot lately, especially we have great presidents who are unprecedented. Okay, I'm making it political. Well, okay, this is Almost Naked Conversation. I'm going to say what I want. It is my show, all right? So, blabbering enough. The time that is happening right now, the situation we're in is so unique, so different, and different people, everybody's reacting differently. The impact is crazy. The entire world right now is going through every single news bulletin, every single newspaper, every single website. It's just too much at times. And some people are being very brave. Some people are not so brave. Some people are very anxious. Some people are being smart enough. I say that cynically. Oh, I am strong. I'm young. I'm going to be fine. But hey, you're being a dickhead, because you know what? You're going to be fine. But because of you, so many more can be in danger. So this is the time where we need to figure out, how do we do this? How do we really handle the situation? What kind of conversations we need to have? The shock that we're going through, how do we deal with that? How do we really, because we don't know, first thing is, have no idea how long this is going to go on. Employments are being affected. Careers, families, suddenly people who don't want to be together in a room are confined in the same house for I don't know how long. Okay, people who want to be really, really with each other right now cannot reach each other because of the lockdown. I know I'm spoiling, but let me just confess it very upfront. Today, I was informed that my family is in a situation where the entire area is a hotspot for this pandemic. And by hotspot, that means it's really high rate of, deaths happening and infections spreading really fast. So I had a really, really crazy reaction. I was really anxious, and then I had to just come to terms with it. And I'm here still doing the shows. So, we're all dealing with this in such a different way. And there is no one way to do this way or that way. There's no one right direction. And that's why I thought I need to bring in two ladies who have seen life in such amazing ways and have a great, more than one technique. They have such great ways of dealing with life in general and in professional environments, and with, suddenly everybody working remotely, suddenly the whole dynamic changing, how do we do this, and the shock we're going through. So I'm going to bring in my first guest. And if you have been watching Dreamaniac TV, which I wonder why you would not, you would know my first guest as well as second. So let's bring Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps. She is an expert in magical conversations, and I will just let her introduce herself. So there we go. Hey, Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps, how are you going?
I'm doing well, Szebastian. How are you today?
I am as good as I can be under the circumstances. So, well, here's the first question I have for you. First of all, just tell a little bit about yourself to people. So anybody who has never known you before in my show, they can understand what is Dynamic Conversation, who you are.
Okay, well, my passion is to understand the dynamics between people. So not only your personal dynamic, but how do you relate to other people? So the situation we find ourselves in, where we're in lockdown or we're remote working, suddenly we're having to understand people in a different way. We need to understand ourselves, but we also need to understand everybody else. So I talk about magical conversations because these are conversations where we come without judgment, a very difficult state to be in at the moment, to be non-judgmental in the unknown, but to also not get too angry, to get too coercive, because we want some freedom to explore. So I think that what we're looking at today is what's happening in the now, how do we deal with the moment, and then what do we want in the future? Because rather than saying, well, I'll just deal with the now, and once it's all passed, we'll go back to normal.
Right.
I don't see that happening. So there's two states. There's two states of time, which is deal with the moment, deal with the future. And my focus is how do you have the conversations you need to have, to deal with the moment, and there might be difficulties, or there might be frustrations, there might be a need to console people when somebody does get sick, and if somebody sadly does pass on, how do you deal with that? But then also, how do you encourage conversations which help us to look forward, to look beyond the horizon? That this is an unknown period of uncertainty, but then we can say that it's about opportunity and possibilities. And that's my focus on the dynamics of life, is how even in the state of illness or stress or despair, do we look for the opportunities? And one of my own experiences that I've worked a lot in the corporate world and the business world, but I've also dealt with my own challenges. My husband has had cancer and has been in hospital, and I've had times when I've had to deal with situations that I've never ever been in before, helping him get through some very difficult spaces and places and conversations. So for me, it's about dealing with the now, what is the future, and what are the conversations that we can have with ourselves and with other people.
Right. And you're so right, because this is the time in a very, very dynamic time. In itself, it's just like a situation we have never seen before, a situation we don't know how to deal with. And
Yes.
this is actually first time, at least, I can say that your generation, my generation, and the generation after me hasn't seen this, doesn't know what to do. We have drills, we have fire drills, we have disaster drills and everything, but this is something none of us really, technically and socially and psychologically have prepared for. And suddenly we're in a time. So here's the first question I have for you. Things are different for everybody. First of all, how has it affected your life at this time? Because I know you're a very social person. You're out and about there. How are you coping with it?
Well, it's very interesting and a really good question, because I was always doing quite a lot on Zoom. So because I interact with clients and family and friends in the UK and in Malaysia and the Philippines, and across America, that I'm often on the screen, and I'm often in group situations on screen, but it's not the same as actually being physical with people. So actually, there is a sense of a lockdown on freedom. I'm not afraid of what's going on. I'm not scared about the future. I know that we'll manage it, we'll deal with it. But it's interesting reflecting on just that limit of freedom, the freedom just to, get in the car and go somewhere else, or actually get on a plane and go and see my family in England. So it's that restriction of literally being in the right one space. And because my husband and I are in that danger zone period of, not myself, but my husband sort of being underlying health experiences, we haven't actually even been to a shop. So we've had somebody else do the shopping for us. So it limits your freedom when you've actually been free all your life. It's a very interesting mindset challenge. And there are times when I feel very restricted, even though I can walk outside my building and walk around with the dog.
I think it's a lot more psychological, because that's what I am a person, believe it or not, I'm mostly an inside person. I go out once in a week, once in a week, I know that, okay, Sunday is my day. I go out and do, I do
Yeah.
my gardening, I do my clubbing, I do everything. But other than that, whether it's morning, night, or whatever, it doesn't matter what shift I'm working, I'm inside. If you ask me, hard for people to get me out of my room or my office or my bedroom, right? But right now, there's a sudden extraordinary urge and the feeling of
Yeah,
like, why can't I go out? It's like when you're, human psyche is like when you say don't do this, you want to do it, right?
absolutely. And it's about having that conversation with yourself as well as with other people, because you have to, well, I find that I need to remind myself that it is going to be okay. There will
Yeah,
be freedoms returning. This isn't the end of the world. And if it was, then that would be it anyway. So I'm going to
right.
focus on the now and the future being there, whatever it is.
And it is scary for, it is scary, it is unique. And I agree with you. My first reaction was same, like, how do I do this? People I'm far from, but I need to be with. How do I catch up with them? How do I make sure they're safe? At the same time, accepting, well, it is whatever it is, que sera, sera, whatever will be. But
Yeah.
on one hand, I'm accepting that. On the other hand, I'm just thinking, wow, what if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? What if, the brain is in an overdrive with all that? So here is the question that, where your expertise comes in. And I want to ask that on behalf of everybody watching and, anybody who watches replay. People who are going through this sudden change, whether professionally because they had to suddenly, work from remote locations, or suddenly who were, all their families are home because nobody can move around, and now you're living with everybody you only had to see at night, and even though everybody loves, it's just really different and difficult. And the first thing I'm going to ask personally, in personal situations when this is all getting too frustrating, everybody's too close for comfort, how do we
Yeah.
have the dynamic conversations to keep it, I guess, to keep it positive, to keep each other positive, to keep the situation, better?
Well, I think the thing is that it is like living in a pressure cooker. So you have to, what a pressure cooker is like. You have to let the steam out very carefully, otherwise it goes like that. So you want to be
Right.
able to find times in the day when you have time away from each other, even if it's sitting in the bathroom or another room, or you go and make a cup of tea or whatever. And then if there are tensions, how do you create boundaries in order to talk about tensions? Be able to say, look, I really just need to tell you that I'm feeling frustrated. I was actually very frustrated yesterday, and my husband said to me, oh, you seem very depressed. I said, no, I'm not depressed. I'm just a little bit, I'm frustrated with not getting things done that I want to get done. And then I'm telling
Right.
myself, just take time out, go and sit on the patio or take the dog for a walk. It's okay. Everything is okay. And I have a value creation cycle that it's quite a Buddhist principle, but if I don't value myself, I can't add value to the day. I can't add value to him or to my dog or anybody I talk to on Zoom or on the telephone. So I need to
Right.
evaluate. If I'm feeling frustrated, then what can I do to make a difference? I've got a video with a footloose music on, and so I start dancing.
Right.
Or I go and do some qigong, or I read my book. I do something else to know that it's not him or the dog, or it's not other people. It actually starts with me. So the value creation cycle starts with me understanding my value. Once I
Right.
can address that any minute of the day, then I know what value I add to you and me. So you and
Right.
me and Jim, me and Honeybee, me and anybody I'm on by. And then the third part of the cycle is that then we create us. We create the bigger community. And that's what I see happening in the world. We've suddenly got the situation where, although people are maybe frustrated or anxious, they're actually looking out on the world and saying, oh my God, actually, we're starting to care about each other more. We're actually
Right.
looking forward to meeting each other again. We're looking forward to that community
Because
state.
suddenly we're put in a situation where we're told you can't meet, you can't be together, and we are realizing how important that was, how valuable
Yeah.
that connection is, and suddenly we are actually beginning to, I guess, honor that more than we ever had. And that's personally, but in terms of professional, suddenly somebody who's never worked remotely, or somebody like me, uh, there's so many employers having to move all their staff, resources, and everything in a way so that they can still stay connected, can do things. And it's not easy. I can tell you personally, it's not easy, because it's like I am now stuck to a desk to do everything with my team, something which I could use to walk up to them and say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that?
Yes.
And I personally, as much as I do these shows, I don't want to be in front of a camera or in front of a video or on audio calls beyond 2 hours in a day. And now that's the only option I have. And I've seen you connecting with your family on Zoom, in a group.
Yes.
I've seen lots of my fellow CEOs do that with their teams, with their family. It's very different. It's a different environment. In this environment, how does a person balances the professionalism, yet all those boundaries we require in workplace, and yet have all the work done and have the right conversation at the right time? Because what's the biggest challenge that is happening in all this? All these people on the Zoom or whichever platform they're using are also anxious together. The conversations, instead of work, everybody's talking about, it starts with how you feeling, and there's 20 people in the call and everybody's talking about the bad news instead of focusing on what's available.
Well, I think the thing is that there is a shift, and what's really interesting is, so as an example, I did 2 Sundays where I got my family across the world to come together, and we're not actually going to do it tomorrow because it became a bit too much.
Right.
And I actually said, well, let's leave it for a month then, because I think there's also almost an anxiety to be on Zoom too much, and there's Zoom fatigue, and there's on-screen fatigue, and though I get people saying, oh no, I can't do that because there's so many. And I've actually stepped back and stopped going on as many free events as there are available now. There's sort of almost more digital noise offered.
Right.
And I think it's about being selective. And when you're actually on there with your team, make a time for the personal bit and make it positive. So, if somebody, I'll give you an example. I was watching Simon Sinek. He said he gets his team together once a week and always has done, even before this, and they only talk about the relationships. How are you doing?
Right.
It's not about work. So maybe it's scheduling, okay, the first 10 minutes is going to be, what's your positive word for the day? And then if there are any issues, let's put them up. And also to make sure that people don't talk over each other, because when people are not used to a Zoom group, I think that's what puts them off. My son said that to me. He said, oh, if everybody talks at once, that's it. I'm out of there. So I think there's a new protocol, there's a new discipline about, you're on this call with 12 people or 30. There has to be some guidelines. You don't talk when somebody else is talking. If it is a one word, then you give a one word. You don't give 10 words. So I teach my clients how to do that. It's like, put a schedule out for what's emotional, what's practical, what's action points. We want this meeting to be fun. We want this meeting to be serious. You actually set a guideline for what the intention is for the meeting, and then people know what they're expected to be doing. And if there's any calls that are desperately negative, then you make sure you take them off into a one-to-one.
Right.
Because people, they want to share this time together, but there are also things that they want to look at on their own. And as you know, everybody is very different, and that's what I deal with. Is what's the difference in the dynamic? If you're an introvert or extrovert, or you're a bullet point man, or you're very territorial, or whatever it is you are on the gender dynamics of life, we want to understand everybody in the room, which is now in the Zoom room,
right?
and use the same etiquette. There's kind of a Zoom etiquette.
Right. And the thing is that is the thing. One of the points you said earlier is, whether the positive or the negative, it's right now becoming overwhelming, because we already are living in a digital world. There's already an information overload, and now it's 700 to 800 times more. I was recently reading an article and said 700 to 800 times more. Sorry, 700 to 800% more, which is huge. And again, my maths is crap, so don't quote me on my numbers. But that's It's a lot. And I saw that myself. Too much
Yeah.
positive is frustrating me. Too much negative is frustrating me. For me, the biggest thing was I know a lot of people are dying. I hate that word, but, and I have a mother who is 71, and I'm really, every time somebody says senior citizens, it has an impact on me. Can we just shut up? Can we just
Yeah.
stop? It's not, I'm not being rude, and my purpose is not don't express yourself. My purpose is, yes, we all know. Yes, everybody knows 24/7, every news channel, every newspaper, every
Yes.
radio, everything is talking about it. My entire news feed is full of it. So
Yeah.
as you may have noticed, even in this entire conversation, I haven't used the two words that everybody is using. I'm not even using the term while having the conversation about it, because I made a conscious choice. Let's
Yes.
not make it the center of the conversation. Let's make, how do we deal with this, or just share our experiences. Not, don't lecture people, don't condemn
No.
people, just accept what's happening, right?
Well, that's right. And one of the most important things for me about this period is that I want to, and I am creating magical conversations about what would you really ideally like your future to be. Not what you think it might be from here, but if you actually could have a magic wand and stretch out to the future with no conditions, let's find out what we all want. Then we have something to work back from, the reverse engineering from a future that we all desire. We have this opportunity, and also celebrate all the people who do recover, because there are people who recover.
And the thing is, right now, speaking of recovery, right now what's happening is so unusual, so new, so never happened before, that we're
Yeah.
also in, everybody in their own way is in a shock. Everybody's,
Absolutely.
it's a different kind of shock for everybody. It's different for
Yeah.
you, different for me, different for, a teenager who's suddenly being told he can't go out, or a little 5-year-old doesn't know why he can't play with his friends anymore. They just don't understand. So everybody's in a different kind of a shock, and this shock is really like, what just happened? What did I do wrong? Why are we going through this? And which is what we're going to talk to our next guest in a moment.
Yes.
So I just want to segue into that, and we'll carry on the conversation when Dorothy joins us. So guys, this is Almost Naked Conversation, and I am Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO, and with me is Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps. She is the magical conversations expert, and she's just phenomenal. So we're going to be taking a quick break here, and we'll be right back in just a minute, and we'll have our new guest with us. All right. You're watching Almost Naked Conversation with the Almost Naked CEO, Szebastian Onne, and everything in this conversation is almost naked. I say almost because some things are still need to be private, some things we need to still follow the law, so we do that. And this show is on Dreamaniac TV. So we are having a conversation about how do we do this time right now? What's happening right now? How do we deal with this? And we spoke to Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps about the importance of magical conversations, the dynamic relationships, the handling the situation in a positive way, and not overdoing or underdoing the lecturing and everything else. Now, as I said before we went on break, we're also dealing with a shock, and it's just kind of driving us crazy. Everybody's just going through a different kind of shock. My shock is different than yours, and it's just not the usual time. So without further ado, I want to bring in Dorothy Kuhn. She is going to discuss the UnShocked system. First of all, let's see what that is. So let's begin with, hey Dorothy, and a little bit, and we have a little bit here as well.
Yeah. Because in tense times, we need something to make us smile.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, you're looking gorgeous. I love the entire get. So we are all shocked right now. And the shock is just, I don't know how do I say, the first shock was, I think my first reaction to the shock was like, yeah, this is not happening. Yeah, it's not going to happen to me. I'm going to be fine. I stay inside anyway. So, but inside my brain, I'm going, oh shit, what is happening? Are you serious? Is like, what, what do I do? So, that shock took over. And then I'm seeing one person, the second person, then my staff members, then my friends, then my family. Everybody's coming with different reactions. And believe it or not, every additional reaction is making me more shocked and more sort of go in a new sort of a situation, go like, oh hell, how do I deal with this, right? So what do we do? This is shocking. So before we do that, let me interrupt you. I know the little bit, and her brother or sister is playing. That's okay. So first of all, tell us who you are, Dorothy. For my audience, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Dorothy Kuhn, the UnShocked coach, and sorry, the dog is really distracting me. I don't usually the room, but
no, it's all good. You can just ignore them. Okay. They can play around. We are very good with that. We have 2 dogs here, and Dr. Pauline also have 1 dog, so we're all good.
So yes. The last time we spoke, I had the bones of this system in me, and I couldn't quite, express it in the way that was really, really landed for people. And, the gift of time and the gift of getting to speak with you and so many other wonderful colleagues really got me in a place where I could name the baby, so to speak, and just in time for all of this, because we're all in this state of shock with what's going on to some degree or another. Some people are really calm, but now they're at home. They're, as you said, worried about their income. I have 2 businesses, right. A hospitality business and a coaching business, and boy, it really impacted the hospitality business until I
right.
about how to pivot that. And being able to pivot in a difficult situation is a magical power that I teach my clients how to develop. And that's the first step for being unshocked in any scary situation, whether it's this crazy pandemic or whether it is, a person-to-person interaction, which is really very much where I started with these kinds of things. People will sometimes say things that are perfectly reasonable from their perspective, from their point of view. And for my point of view or your point of view, you might think, what in the wide world of sports made them say or do that?
Right.
And so, these things happen. We will do just one of 2 things. And, it's kind of go on the attack or shrink back in shock, like we're on the back of our heels. You know what I mean?
Right. I just want to quickly acknowledge a couple of comments that have come through. Sanjay says, hi, Dorothy. Glad to see you.
Hey.
Hi, Tech Mother says, hi, Dorothy. And Hi, Tech Mother happens to be my mom. Yeah. What's the time? Oh, crazy. She's up at 5 a.m. So, and Alicia says, yes, shock is everywhere and making the pivot is so vital right now, Dorothy. Absolutely true. And before you say anything, Dorothy, I just want to acknowledge one mistake I made. So I did not put up any comments when Pauline was there. So we're going to put them up when Pauline comes back in and joins us together. Oh, so okay. Yeah, this shock is, really, the thing is, what is being unshocked? I don't know what it means, being unshocked.
So being unshocked is a skill to develop. And so it really, and I first want to start off with like, what is a syndrome? And,
right.
Syndrome is just a collection of symptoms that are characteristic of a disease or a disorder. Well, we're not talking about disease stuff
right.
here, but it does make us uneasy to be in a time of so much change and so much uncertainty. As human beings, we like that, that mix of certainty and uncertainty. Too much of one or the other makes us feel off kilter. And
Right.
and so when we're thrown off kilter, then we'll be afraid, or be back on our heels, as I mentioned, or going forward in an attack, or we may take that anger inside, or that sadness inside, and
Right.
hear something in the news that just brings us to tears. And gosh, this happened to me twice today.
Right.
And you're
Well,
thinking,
it
"Oh,
is
I'm human."
it is difficult time. It is thing is it's no more just personal. It's so phenomenally huge that, as I was saying to Dr. Pauline, we weren't prepared for this. We weren't trained for this. There were no drills. There were no practices, right?
Right.
And that's why we're in shock, because like, I know you're politer than I am. So from my reactions, like, holy frick, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. I want my 2019 back, or just skip me over to 2021. But the thing is, it's happening right now.
It is.
And as you're saying, we do kind of need to unshock ourselves to, because the main challenge right now is to how to move forward.
It is. And the first thing to do when any challenge shows up, when I first started this work, I was really focused on these person-to-person interactions, but this is a whole new context. And in this, just as well as person-to-person interactions, the fundamental attitude, this fundamental perspective that puts you in fully standing in your own authenticity is
Mhm.
to ask yourself, where's the opportunity here? Where's the opportunity for love, for moving forward, for turning around a difficult situation? And when you can ask yourself that one question, where's the opportunity? Then it's amazing what will show up for you, especially if you're asking that not in just your own self-interest,
Mhm.
but in the interest of the relationship you have with your community, with your spouse, with your children, with your lover, with your friend, whatever.
I like what you're saying, because and I'm glad you explained the opportunity as well, because you know what, opportunity usually is connected more to do with progress and success in business. But yes, it is about right now looking at a positive opportunity of any kind
Mhm,
to, I think, have the right conversation. I
mhm.
mean, I don't know what the right conversation is, to have the conversation that helps people create situations and
Uh-huh.
um, possibilities where we can be stronger, we can do something better out of this, we can learn something,
Mhm.
which is where I'm glad that I'm bringing both of you together, magical conversation and unshocked system and opportunity. It's just all so much in sync. We're just going to take a couple of comments. So Sanjit said, this pandemic is challenge for the modern medical science, how they're prepared for the new ever pandemic. I think he means like they're not prepared for this pandemic. Even the medical science is not prepared. And then he says, this COVID-19 will be remembered for the whole life. I cannot forget this situation. And right, I think that is part of the shock, because you're like, it's almost like somebody offended you or somebody hurt you, and you're just trying to, like, how do I forget this, or how do I forgive this? And Alicia
Yeah.
says, oh yes, that is huge. Where is the opportunity to rise? So
Yes.
before you answer that, one thing that I want to say, when I being an entrepreneur myself and taking care of 42 people, families, you would say, pets that I, help, who are now kind of, it's a struggle to get to them and feed them and all that. I'm talking about, the strays that I've adopted and all that. So much going on. My first reaction was, I didn't see opportunity. I was like, there is no hope. There is no up from here, right? The first initial reaction was like, there is no up to this. There is no positive to this. And then I saw, this opportunity statement pop up a couple of other places. I was like, how can somebody be so positive right now with everything that's going on? I can't think. And of course, over a few days, the mindset changed. But yes, opportunity is big. So somebody who's in my state, Dorothy, whose initial stages of the shock are still not accepting that there is an opportunity of different kind, how do we bring them, or how do they bring themselves into that state of looking at the possibility?
Looking at the well, so one perspective to take is to know, we all know these yin and yang symbols that we have from Eastern philosophy, which
Right.
has an analog in many other cultures as well. But this is so well known. I love to describe it. And in the yang is this little dot with the seed of yin, and within the yin is this little dot that is the seed of yang. And that is true in every difficult situation, and I've been in many of them. There is the possibility for something great on the other side, and just that first step alone, realizing that can be true. It can be true for you. Possibility is available to you. Then that is the thing that will send your mind to a place of asking. And when you send your brain to a place of asking, it will serve up an answer and an answer and an answer. And so ask yourself, and you can write it down. Getting it out of you is really valuable.
And I have to ask this, and I know I'm contradicting or sort of counter questioning that. There are people out there who already don't talk, who already don't share. And it is, and I'm not only talking about introverts, but I'm talking about people who don't tell. Aussie men are trained and raised to not express themselves. Okay. Yeah. We just don't have a problem, unless you're me. We just don't have a problem. We're all fine. Anything can happen. We're gonna be fine. It's all good, mate.
Yeah, and we can take any.
Oh, you're a true blue Aussie, so you yeah, it's all cool. But the thing is, that's where the problem is. How do we get people like this to get it out? How do we get them to unshock themselves? Because this is also a coping mechanism. You just do, yeah, I'm fine, and you're coping, but what's going on inside is like, oh no.
Well, you're looking at the way you used to do that. Nothing bothers me. I can deal with anything. Blah 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 blah. And there comes a time when something will challenge you that will rock you to your core. And that turns out to be difficult for sure, and an amazing gift when you've got just a couple of starter basic skills. And one of them is to get that stuff out of you, just to write it down. I've always have a pad and a pencil or a pen, on the nightstand, because when you're trying to go to sleep at night, and that's
a great point, because what you're also saying is it's not just getting out in a specific way. If you can journal it. If you can talk to somebody, talk to it. If you can cry about, cry, let yourself cry, do that. If you want to call a counselor, if you want to call Lifeline, do it anonymously or visibly or in a group, whatever works for you, really, right?
Exactly. There are many methods. Do what works for you, and do it as consistently as you can, and you'll, if you need more, your mind in thinking about, I think I need something more. You'll notice it just by saying that kind of thing to yourself. You will notice things that have been around you that were always there that you just hadn't noticed.
You just have to listen. You just have to listen to your inner voice. You just have to, and I you know what? Ironically, this is the time of calm that allows you to listen to that. The noise is gone. Suddenly the noise is gone. I know there's digital noise, but the noise is gone. Going in a totally different perspective, since this has happened, I could hear the birds I've never heard in my life. I could hear, this is going to sound crazy, I could hear the leaves I have never experienced in my entire life. I was like, what's that? And I can smell the leaves. I can smell the soil. I'm like, oh my God, that it's not raining, but it smells really nice. And I realized out of all this negative, there's one positive happening. The nature is reclaiming itself.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful, it's so calm, and suddenly all that anxiety became like, oh, you know what, the planet is healing. I, talk about opportunity, I just thought, oh wow, the planet is healing. And Alicia's saying, just like the law of polarity, I think I missed a point. So while we were talking, I sorry, I just get carried away. And she's like, nature is healing itself. Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's, I guess it's just getting it out, and it's also listening to everything that's happening inside you and around you is
Mm-hmm.
what we really need. Speaking of which, we need to get people around us, so we need to bring back Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps back with us, and we're going to have a three-way conversation. So bear with me. We're going to have a quick break, and we'll be right back. So, guys, this was, well, this is, I'm so sorry if you're tuning in right now. This is Almost Naked Conversation with me, the Almost Naked CEO, Szebastian Onne, and with me are two wonderful guests today, Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps and Dorothy Kuhn. Both of them are phenomenal in the way they do things. Dr. Pauline talks about the magical conversations, and Dorothy talks about UnShocked System. And it's just so beautiful just to understand the importance of unchecking things that need to stop or go, and getting out of that shock system and looking at the opportunity. So we'll be right back in a minute. Don't go anywhere. All right, all right, all right. We are back. If you're tuning in right now, this is Almost Naked Conversation with me, Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO on Dreamaniac TV. The show is directed by Alicia Khoury and produced by Sanchit Kumar. And we are talking about how do we do this right now? How do we do these timings? And with me, I earlier spoke to Dr. Pauline Crawford-Omps, and then I spoke to Dorothy Kuhn. And it is now time to bring both the magical ladies together. Here we are.
Yay! Absolutely.
So, how do we do this?
Well, one of the things I'd like to say is I very much agree with what Dorothy said about write it down. Yeah, dance it out, write it down. If you really want to go and have a punch at a sofa or something, I mean, just let that out, joy and frustration. But I think that with writing down, for people who've never written before, is it doesn't matter what you write. It doesn't matter if you never read it again. Just write it and be really honest. And if your writing's as bad as mine, nobody else will be able to read it anyway.
Well, you know what? If you're like me, you're going to type it. If you're going to type it, then everybody will be able to read it at any time.
Well, that's an interesting point, Szebastian. I don't know whether Dorothy agrees, but it's very important to handwrite it because it takes it out of your body.
Yeah.
So actually, even if it's 5 minutes, write something, just write something, because by that action of actually getting the pen and writing, it takes it out of your body very much faster.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Definitely do that. And I want to, there was one point that I wanted to make in the first segment that is really, since so many people are at home, you're either at home by yourself or by yourself, with an animal maybe, or three, and or you're at home with your family or your roommates, and you have not been in this situation before, and particularly if you're with other people, being able to have, and I know Dr. Pauline will have something really wise to say on this, is to have a time each week where you can just very quickly in 15 or 20 minutes say, what pissed me off in the past week, and stick to that. And then how do we solve that? Just look at it as an opportunity to unpiss your
Yes.
on the other side of that conversation, knowing that the idea of your relationships, whatever they are in your household, are are to be able to get along well with love and honor and respect, and building up that I am pissed off is not serving the future that you wanted when you went into that relationship in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to have those conversations and be able to say, look, I just feel frustrated today. It's not you, it's just the situation. And I just want to have a little conversation about it. And I don't want to be afraid to say anything that will, and you set the intention. It's always good to set the intention. As opposed to just going straight in for the jugular.
Yeah, and that, from my perspective, is a great counterpoint, because there is the situation, and then there are some things that really, that the person does or does not do that really, gets your kind of winds your clock, so to speak. So there are those two sides, and having those difficult conversations in kind of a safe zone. With something cute to remind you that love is there.
I love that. Yes.
When those are, do those things.
Well, that's right. And one of the main guidelines I put into magical conversation is start without a judgment. In my experience of you, this is what's happening to me today. And it's not a judgment on what you do. It's just the way I'm feeling. I'm not angry about it. I just want to find a solution. What do you think? That's the whole idea about the magical conversation, is to come into it with a willingness to explore our feelings.
Yes.
But don't come into it with anger. Just come in. This is my experience, and I'm sharing it with you. And if you love me, then let's get to grips with it.
Yes, very much.
Right.
Even when you have written that stuff down and gotten it out of you, a day or two before, or a week before, then you've had time to process those. So if you were angry in the moment or frustrated or whatever it was, you've had time to get that out of you so that it doesn't come spilling out with the force of that anger.
Absolutely.
The thing is, the biggest impact it has is, and especially for me, when you're writing it, when I'm going to politely disagree on typing or writing, but when you're getting it out of your system in written, one thing that is happening is you're going through all those emotions that were pent up inside and that were destroying what they were destroying. So now you're not having an outburst with somebody else. Instead, you've already gone through those emotions. Maybe you've cried in private while you're writing it. Maybe you've been angry, maybe you've been anxious and everything. And how it has helped me over my life in releasing things is now when I go to that person and talk, not only I have released all that toxic sort of reaction, but the biggest thing that has happened is now I have clarity. What do I really want to talk about? Because the thing is, when you're in anger, when you're in reaction or anxious or anything, you're not focusing on what you really want to say. You're just saying because you want to say something. But if you have done that writing or whichever way is your outlet, now you can focus on what really the problem was, what solution you are looking for, what's the hurdle for you, right? So I think whether it's writing or any other outlet that helps you express yourself is really, really important. And High Tech Mother says, I love this chat. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to make a suggestion, Szebastian. You are an artist. So doodle, get a page and just doodle all your thoughts.
I do that a lot. That's
good because you're not doing that on the computer.
I don't have that notepad with me right now. I was just looking for it, but I do that a lot. And all that notepad is for is so here's what I do. I take one letter, any letter. And that letter has something to do with what's going on in my mind, anger or anxiety or sadness. And then I create flowers around it and I create birds around it. And then I make a cartoon. Suddenly A becomes an elephant. Believe it or not, it becomes not elephant, but elephant. So it's just like I go crazy. And that's it. It's just an outlet. As you were saying, I think, Dr. Pauline, it's writing has different forms. So this doodling is a form of writing. It's just expression.
Expression.
So one thing I want to ask you both, and this is something that has been bugging me since it all has gone, and the politics and the news and the laws and regulations and lockdowns and everything. We've been using a word a phrase, a hashtag, social distancing. I
Ah.
am so against it. I'm so not in agreement with it. I think it is the more, because see, you both are people who believe in conversations, who believe in, understanding and going in depth and then finding something positive and creating something, versatile and dynamic. So for me, I think the messages, words matter. So when you
Yes.
use the term social distancing, I think that's inappropriate. I think that's wrong. I think you're saying distancing from each other socially. I strongly believe it needs to be physical distancing,
Mhm.
spatial distancing, and
Yeah.
social solidarity or social connectivity. What do you think?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
You're not the
I
first
agree.
person who has mentioned this. Go ahead, Pauline.
Well, I totally agree. And words are so important, and I don't know who started it. I don't know whether media started it or what, but you're absolutely right, Sebastian. Social distancing is a wrong word. Keeping your distance, I think lockdown is a good word. Stay home, stay safe. That's really good. But we need something which is embracing that we need to collaborate.
Yeah.
We need to get together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it really is physical distancing. It is a physical world that we just need to be 6 to 12 feet apart. And
Right.
where the weather's like Sebastian, where you are, but it's spring here in Texas, and people
Yeah,
need,
same.
you
Yeah.
want those 12 feet and a mask
Right.
too.
Right. And look, the thing is, how I see it is right now, because obviously we can't be close to each other, and especially if there's a huge age difference, if it's 60 plus, if it's under 15, all that. There's so many things that we have to be careful about. So it is right now important to use the right terminology and say we are connected. We are here for each other. We just have to be focused about hygiene, sanitation, physical distance, not using each other's things, not have that huggy, touchy things that we used to do, just for the time being, just until we get better. And that's why see that. Um, Now I'm going to ask you both, one by one. So, Pauline, we were talking about magical conversations, and Dorothy talked about the yin and yang, which later on Alicia educated
Yeah.
me is the nature, the law of polarity.
Yeah.
So when this is happening and the yin and yang is happening and the confusion is also happening at the same time, and the need for conversations is also there, but the biggest thing that I think right now people are going through is confusion. What's going on? It's not even anxiety, it's not even anger, it's not even frustration. I think the biggest thing that nobody's focusing on is a confusion. Okay, what do I do now? When will this end? How do I go from here? Where do I go from here? What do I need to do? Is it going to fix? Like, says, there's so many crazy questions happening right now. So in this confusion, how do we first find a center place to start that magical conversation together?
Well, I think the goal is that value creation cycle I talked about. We've got to understand our own mindset to go into that, and almost check into the other person or people. Are we all on the same mindset? Do we want to enter this space? Have we got rid of the angst, but we can bring our questions and conversations. I think the anxiety and the confusion, I would suggest that people pace themselves. Don't read the bad news, but do read what's going on in your particular field, and just don't let anything marginalize you or control you, but just be aware, because everybody's in the same place, and it's a very complex puzzle that we are creating for our future. But to be mindful day to day of what it is you're aware of, and maybe have conversations with people in your home which are about those things without making too many conclusions, because we can't make conclusions at the moment, and that's
We're
difficult.
not in a position. Yeah.
Because we're especially in a traditional environment in the Western world, we're very geared to actions, but actually magical conversation is all about no action, conversation, contribution, thinking time. Map it out, put it on the wall, do a doodle, put the doodles on the wall, have some fun with what's coming out, allow time and patience and pace, and keep breathing. So that's my
Right.
suggestion. And yeah, the money side of it is a challenge, the business side of it is a challenge, but we're all in it together. I think that's the kind of salutary thing that keeps me safe, is that whatever happens, we've all got to come to some big conversations. So we start with the little conversations and then build the bigger ones.
Right. And, speaking of mapping it out, Dorothy, you are actually, you're personally affected by this situation as well, because you've been sharing your journey a little bit about, what's happening because of this entire thing. And at the same time, you're focusing on building entrepreneurs, helping others in the community to sort of focus and reinvent and sort of, try and get, I guess, stay focused on what is still possible and how to do it, how to manage your money, how everything.
Oh, exactly.
So
So I have been coaching local business owners recently on how to do that pivot, how to take, what it is that they do currently and take that online in a way that they just hadn't thought of before. And so that is really going to put them in a position to save their business, and how to step up their marketing in a way that really helps, that's not tone deaf to what's going on in the world. When you're always coming from a place of service, of helping people, then that's a place where that allows for opportunity to be seen. If you're tone deaf, then people, the door shuts like that.
Right. And one thing that I would ask is, while you're trying to do that and educate people and help them, build them up, what's the biggest objection that you're facing right now in terms of people's psyche and people's reaction to, like, are you seeing any negative reactions as well? And how do you handle that if you see any?
So I have not seen those negative reactions because when I'm reaching out, when I'm sharing in my online community of practice, and in email marketing that I do, it's always sharing from a place of love and respect and an opportunity. And, how can I be in service? And understanding the situation that people are in. So those are things that are almost unilaterally well received, because people need care in uncertain times. They need to know that somebody loves them for who they are.
And one thing I want to say, and this just happened in the last 24 hours because of the show and everything we were doing, and I think we created a dynamic conversation and UnShocked System that we actually, I introduced you guys to. You guys have had a conversation. So I just want to ask you, Dr. Pauline, in your experience, this connection, this is also an opportunity. This is also something we created together. So what is it that has helped you in last 24 hours, you two ladies together, to sort of see that, okay, this is a great time. Of course, we are all locked down and everything, but there is something positive out of this. How do you see that?
Well, I think especially when you're an entrepreneurial mindset, you look for these opportunities. So somebody like yourself says, connect with somebody, you go, oh, wow, this is going to be great. You already have the intention that there's an opportunity. And this is what I think is really interesting timing wise. If you think the pandemic has got a timing, we've had 2 or 3 decades of the growth of entrepreneurship, of entrepreneurs. We've now got millions and millions and millions and millions of more people passionate about their own jobs. They're flexible. They're looking for doing things differently. They want to be online. I'm not saying the pandemic came at the right time, but if it had come 2 decades ago, we might not have been in the right place. Now we've got these very alert mindsets, and I think that's going to help us carry through. And that's what I think you find, Dorothy. I do as well, that the people we're linking and connecting with are already going, oh, great, let's think about something. Let's do that. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. How can we do it different? How can we be flexible? Mm-hmm. The people who are in more panic, I think, will be the employed person or the homeless person, obviously, that they're not used to this needing to be adaptable and flexible. So as entrepreneurs, I think we need to increase our momentum to help the the non-entrepreneurial world to know how to be free to think about things differently. Because as we grow all our businesses, we will want all of them to come and then be employed by us.
Right. So that this really has been a great conversation. But I have a question to ask you both before we wrap up. Let me start with you, Dorothy. So while everything is happening and people are dealing with the way things are, and we don't know what is like when this will be resolved, Dorothy, what is one advice you would keep people and give people at this time to be able to carry on and to be able to uh, yeah, just to deal with this?
That is such a great question. And what I would say is to know that you're loved and that you can pivot from what you were expecting your future to be to what it is. I've had to do this in both of my businesses. When you look back on your life, you will see that you have had challenges before and that you've been able to just pivot. Sometimes it's just a degree off and then move
Right.
forward on something and try it. See what you can make of it. Get some feedback from your family, from your friends, from a coach, from whoever is trustworthy and solid in your life, and you will find a way. It's there for you.
I love that. You'll find a way. And High Tech Mother says, wow, I think she's clearly impressed with the conversation. Sanjit is saying this will bring great opportunities for digital media sector. True, and many other sectors really. Dr. Pauline, a similar question to you. This is a difficult time, and what is very important right now is to find the joy within, to be able to adjust to the new environment and
Yes.
new settings. And you were at the very beginning, you said, even though when we go back to normal, it's not really going to be normal. So what should we be prepared for, and how do we keep that all positive?
I think following on from what Dorothy said as well, is that knowing that by honoring yourself and valuing your own natural talents, you've got them. It doesn't matter what you did at school or pieces of paper. Go into your natural talents. What do you love doing? Do you love cooking or art or music? What are the things that you can actually do for absolute free? You can draw, you can write, you can sing, you can do all sorts of things to keep you going on a daily basis. But I think also to know that if you look at your life, when you were a baby, you learned how to walk, and then you learned how to be an adult, and that was
Right.
scary. And then you learn how to be a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old. You'll get up to where I am. And nothing stands still. So the future is always exciting if you think it is. And the past is behind you. So we're all at this, as Dorothy says, a pivotal position. And see it as an excitement, even when it's scary, because that excitement will actually lift your spirit. And when you find that everybody else is in the same boat, then it's either pulling together or, not a good
Right.
idea. So
Right.
it's about, we're always growing, we're always changing. Every day is a new day. Every day is another year, another day older. And that's great. I'm looking forward to becoming 100 one day and looking back on the whole century and saying, wow, do you remember in 2020, we actually had an opportunity to change our world, and we did it.
Very true. Thank you so much, ladies. Now, please don't go anywhere, but stay in the green room. I will catch up with you in a second. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Szebastian.
Okay, so that was one powerful conversation. I just want to put up a couple of comments that I missed out when Pauline was talking. Alicia said dancing is so freeing and brings joy. Absolutely. I love dancing. So I will agree to that on any day. And, this is where conversation becomes so much more vital. I think I've just put the point because it was just really in the very beginning. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We do need at this time to stay positive, think of, see opportunities, see how can we have the positive conversations, how can we create magic together, and just as difficult as it is, as unprecedented, as unpredictable this is, this shall pass too, is what I would say. So thank you so much for watching. You have been watching Almost Naked Conversation with me, Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO, on Dreamaniac TV, directed by Alicia Corey, who is also the executive producer of Dreamaniac TV, and creative producer is Sanjit. And thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Take care.